Hey, Internet! It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about Mr. Robot. Season 4, Episode 6, Not Acceptable. Which we'll talk about with Elliot, a very appropriate title for this episode. These error codes seem to be just playing right into the actual subject matter of these episodes.
There you go.
So, this episode basically has got 3 prongs and then a short but important scene with White Rose. So that's how we'll talk about this. We'll start with the least important prong first.
Sure.
In my opinion, which is Vera kidnapping the former therapist of Elliot. I still am like, this seems like just an obstacle. I do have a theory, though, that might make it relevant.
Okay.
All right. So basically what happens is, as we suspected, Vera kidnaps the therapist. I'm forgetting her name, but in any case, the former therapist.
Yeah.
And he has a couple of monologues.
Yeah.
Basically describes like he used to be bullied, and one day he got this baseball bat and he beat the living hell out of his bully, but he didn't just beat him up.
No.
He beat him up to the point that then his bully kind of served him and he became the bully, essentially. And so what he wants to do is use that as a metaphor for Elliot. He wants to start, control the gang life of New York, and to do that he wants, Elliot at his side. So he wants to beat him up to the point that Elliot will then serve him and he will conquer the world with Elliot.
He will conquer the world.
And so to do that, torturing this therapist.
Yes.
Basically, we get to the point where she feels threatened enough, and threatened for her love. I don't know, was her husband? Probably her husband.
I think. I'm not sure.
Her significant other.
Yes.
That she agrees. Look, here, there's some notes. If you look under my cabinet, blah blah blah. If you want to break Elliot, the way to do it is through Mr. Robot.
Krista,
thank you. So Krista basically says, under extreme duress.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. If you bring out Mr. Robot, that is a way that you can attack Elliot. And that's kind of how the episode doesn't end there, but that's the ending beat for that scene. I guess I would say her knowledge of the Mr. Robot-Elliot relationship is not up to date. Like, her version of it is Mr. Robot was very antagonistic. Like, I remember a scene where he was threatening her almost physically in the therapy room.
Sure.
So I think what her mind is, oh yeah, if you bring up Mr. Robot, he's actually antagonistic to Elliot, whereas their current relationship is much more mentor-friendly. So I don't know that bringing out Mr. Robot necessarily would break Elliot, is my point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing that occurred to me about him is how part of his theory about why she was important to him was that she was in love with him, and I can't think of any situation when that was ever the case.
Yeah, good point. Like, are you making stuff up that's not there, or was it supposed to be there and we didn't see it?
Yeah. Or it's like, what? I mean, you could just say, like, look, you were really scared of him. That was clear.
Or you care about your patients.
Yeah, or whatever.
He was definitely insinuating a much stronger relationship.
Yeah.
Between them.
And so that's one of the things that occurs to me. So he can see something that is going on and misinterpret it. So that's not a good sign for how he might decide to proceed with any information he got about Elliot.
Sure. We do see in the trailer for next episode that they're in that same room, and Vera threatens Krista, and then we see Mr. Robot. So that's going to happen. Mr. Robot is going to be talking to Vera. I'm just wondering, how does that actually hurt Elliot in that moment? I'm not sure that I get that.
So here's the thing that just occurred to me, is that one thing, presumably, well, it's possible that Krista could know about Elliot, is this, that when he was in jail, he deluded himself about being in jail to make it more bearable for him to be in jail.
Okay.
Right? That's all part of the Mr. Robot thing, which is sort of like the sort of fantasy world that he lives in that helps him deal with being under a lot of duress and stress. So if you were torturing him, that'd be the good thing to know.
Maybe.
Like, I gotta break him so that he loves me and not some imaginary person.
Right. Or maybe the idea is if you bring out Mr. Robot, you try to reason with Mr. Robot to work in your favor against Elliot. Or, to like in other words, if somehow I don't see how he could, but if you had Mr. Robot on your side,
right,
as your, I'm speaking on behalf of Vera, then you would win Elliot over. Maybe that's his plan.
His whole, I'm gonna break him down so that I can build him up.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's gonna take a lot of time.
It does. It's like he's got now it's in the afternoon of the day when all hell breaks loose.
Right.
9 o'clock at night is the meeting.
Right.
So you've got 5 hours, maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I think, and one of the things that occurs to me is that Vera might be part of something where it's like, we got to keep Elliot from doing this one thing at this point because he'll win too soon. So let's have this bad stuff happen that we have to think of a way to keep Elliot from doing what he needs to do so this other bad stuff can happen. And then he can come in at the last minute and do it and win. Here's
where
it's very crass.
Here's what I think this might be the catalyst for. I think this version of this subplot is going to reveal the other personality. I think at some point we're going to see, maybe even next episode, I don't know, the third personality is going to maybe emerge.
Yes. Well, they've mentioned this third personality.
And then they dropped it.
Why?
For episodes.
Yes. Why do you think they would want to have a third personality?
Right, in other words, story-wise?
Yeah.
Narrative-wise? Yeah, because they've already got, hey, we've got you, and you were at odds, and now you're not necessarily at odds. But now we got a third guy who's at odds with both of you. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I think this is the catalyst to reveal that.
I hear you. I'm just, wondering plot-wise what that is like.
What that means.
Yeah. Because, it might have some relationship, I guess, to where Elliot's supposed to be at the end of the show. So a typical way to look at multiple personalities and how that relates therapeutically, whether or not it actually exists, is the idea of integration. So you take all these different personalities and you have them, so you hug them all and you internalize them, and now you're the amalgamation of all these different people. So,
and as a plot device, maybe it becomes a big aha moment if it's somebody we've seen this whole time. I'm just making this up because I don't think it's White Rose, but if it was White Rose and the whole time that's actually Elliot, you'd be like, what? I mean, maybe that's what they're going for, is this big what moment, but I don't know.
That would be, it
would be a little cheap.
That would be, well, I mean,
it could be, if they worked it out from season one, they took
one thing we didn't have with Mr. Robot from the very beginning is scenes of him having the kind of life that White Rose had. So, living in another...
he lives a very basic lifestyle with his black hoodie, and he's...
Right, but I mean, most of his interactions with people, other when Elliot wasn't around, was with his sister, or other people who were involved in the plot to destroy the economy. So it wasn't like here I'm in another country, with the man that I love, and then he kills himself. So, I guess what they had to show us is how White Rose was important to Elliot before anything even began. Because it seems like, there have been a number of times when he would have been dead. So
that's true. Now, just since we're talking about White Rose, let's talk about the little scene we see of White Rose here. White Rose's second in command comes back in. It's like, hey, by the way, we have this picture of Elliot going away from the scene of the burning van.
Right.
We should kill him.
Yep.
And White Rose is like, no, you bring him in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show him our operation and show how we're on the same side.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, but also interesting because of, we'll talk about in a second, what Elliot does in this episode. It's pretty dark. And so maybe they are on the same side. But yeah, so we have this sense of the Dark Army is now trying to find Elliot to capture him and bring him to White Rose. And White Rose is going to reveal this plan that we have so far not seen.
Yes, correct.
And supposedly that will win Elliot over.
It will.
Much like, I guess in some ways it's like Vera. I'll just win him over
Yeah.
by, torturing people and figuring it out.
Well, in this case, yes, it's like showing the, mystery box to him that he'll be like, ooh,
no, but I'm
so glad I did this.
It is a very good analogy in that right now it's a state of affairs in the plot.
Yes.
The Krista is being held under gunpoint,
right,
to get Elliot to win over to their side.
Yes.
And Darlene is being held at gunpoint.
That's true.
To get Elliot on their side.
That's true.
So it is they're both trying the same tactic. One's got a little bigger operation.
Yes.
Yeah. So Dom and Darlene. That's the second prong, the second most important prong in our
prongs
storyline. Dom has been sent to. Eventually, she's told to kill Darlene because Darlene has the tracker on her phone that can show where Elliot is. All they want to do is know where Elliot is because they want to pick him up, take him to White Rose.
Yep.
And since that theoretically is possible, they don't need Darlene. She's, someone who can, a witness. So bump her off. And Dom has until I think it was 3 o'clock or something. We're going to come by at 3 to pick up the body. And so she has this an hour to fret about
it's a good
how
thing
to not kill Darlene.
Yes, exactly.
She believably almost goes through with it. Part of her is she's trying to rationalize it.
Right.
Of you were terrible to me.
Yep.
You deceived me. So hey, I can bump you off.
Yeah, and as Darlene later says, she's kind of in that situation because of Darlene. Because of the way that Darlene abused her trust or whatever. So
it's an interesting conversation. Darlene's in the tub with a head wound because she got pushed in there, and she's basically bargaining for her life at this moment.
Yes.
And so her tactic is to be like, "You're right. I was wrong, but just know I did have feelings for you. So if you're thinking about rationalizing killing me off because I was just a jerk to you the whole time, just know." I actually did have feelings for it. So if you got to do it, fine, but just know.
Yeah.
You can't just rationalize it away.
Yeah.
So it works.
Well, her.
I think she's speaking honestly as well.
No, I think she. Well.
But she's. Okay. I mean, she's saying what she needs to survive.
Yes.
But and
I guess it probably. I mean, I guess I can imagine that means something to her.
Yeah.
But I wonder though the extent that because. As Dom was saying, she's been thinking about killing herself for weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's interesting that she didn't feel she could do it. I mean, she had. Well, I shouldn't say.
Oh, in other words, why? So Dom eventually gives the gun to Darlene and says, "You kill me. It's my only way out."
Right.
And you're saying, why didn't she just kill herself?
Well, I mean, perhaps it wasn't until that moment she was in the situation where she could do the. Murder by cop or whatever.
Oh, sure.
That's what they've set up, and thankfully, they do survive.
So Dom tries to convince Darlene to shoot her because her big concern is not necessarily, obviously, for her own health, but for the health of her family, and she feels convinced, and rightfully so, that the Dark Army will just think her family if she doesn't cooperate.
Yeah. So
she's in the middle of trying.
Now I would have imagined Darlene being forced to shoot Dom, and because it wasn't even the plan for her to get away, they didn't have much time, so that they would have opened the door, seen Darlene, and would be like, "Wow, well, I kind of feel like we still should kill her family." It's really only so that Dom wouldn't be aware of them killing her family.
Well, that's true, but also the fact that what's in it for Darlene? If the Dark Army shows up and she's just killed their agent, she's dead too. I mean, anyway, it was it wasn't going to be good for her to bump off Dom.
No,
and ethically she can't do it either. So, Darlene's like, nah, not shooting you.
Definitely not.
So in the middle of that, the weirdo taxidermist woman,
yes.
interesting character. She comes in with her. She got some thugs with her,
flunkies.
And they're like, "Oh, you're still alive. Well, that's they're about to kill Darlene, but Darlene has wiped her phone, so the They cannot figure out where Elliot is now. So, which means, I assume the next episode they'll be torturing Darlene. She's given herself the benefit of not dying, but being tortured mercilessly.
Well, presumably, I mean, what they should do is like, well, I guess they need to convince her to put Elliot into a trap, I guess. So I guess we would need to torture her for that. I mean, because he would know.
Right,
I mean,
in other words, call him and have him meet you at a blah blah, which is what Vera does. Vera
yes,
does, he's
right.
Like, call Elliot,
right,
Krista,
exactly.
and have him show up at a place.
And of course that doesn't end well. But yeah, I mean,
Well, there could be a situation where maybe they, they're like, oh, we're going to shoot Dom unless you, because we noticed you couldn't shoot Dom before. We're going to kill her unless you help us out. Maybe, or whatever their reasoning. Maybe,
right, I understand.
whatever their twisting is, Darlene's like, fine, I'll help you. But then she can't.
Right.
Because Elliot is in a trunk
right.
of a car right now.
Right.
And so I do feel like the way that thing gets resolved is, Vera has kidnapped, at the end of this episode, very end, Elliot is thrown into a trunk by Vera's
henchman, yeah.
So he's going to be captured by them. I assume perhaps the way they get out of it is Dark Army shows up. And this could be the end of Vera.
I guess so. And like right now, Dark Army is, their mandate is to behave more beneficently to Elliot than,
Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to bring him in
Vera.
to White Rose.
Right.
Alive.
Right.
So White Rose can convince him to be like, we're on the same side. So
yeah.
Their job is not to...
Except that seems illogical.
It does. And you could tell, I mean... It's like the second in command, White Rose the second, is speaking for us.
Yeah.
You're like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Why are you keeping the one?
Why
Like, oh, well, that hack.
Yeah.
It's going to do us all. Like, what? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
I'm increasingly becoming more and more doubtful that this conclusion to this story is gonna that's gonna be very satisfying.
They got 7 episodes left, so they've got time.
Okay.
They got a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so
how many episodes do you think before White Rose is face to face with Elliot? Right, 7 episodes you said?
There's 7 episodes. I don't think it's going to
really? Oh,
be
13?
13 total, I think. So we're at episode 6.
Yeah.
We're about to be at episode 7.
Yeah.
So
wouldn't you have to not be next episode? It have to be the following episode.
It will not be next episode.
Right.
But it might be at the end of the episode. Maybe the end of the next episode. He's captured by the Dark Army.
End
and
of
is being brought.
episode 8.
Maybe 8 would be when there's a late evening meeting or early evening meeting prior to the day. This is the longest day in history.
Yes.
Keeps going. Actually, you know what this is? This is 24.
Oh,
we didn't realize it,
wow.
but they've actually we're going to see
really
Kiefer Sutherland's going to show up because this is literally happening. It seems like it's happening almost in real time.
Sure.
You're like, oh God. Anyway, so the most impactful prong of our 3 prongs from this episode is Elliot. Mr. Robot is back. He was absent from the last episode, but he's back. Again, voice of reason. Elliot's decided what we need is Olivia, the woman that he met a few times earlier, who talked about, hey, I was thinking about suicide.
Sure.
I got to go back to her. I got to get her to talk to one of the Deus folks, have them log on so that I can get the password while they're logging on.
Okay.
And the only way to do that, I got to force her to do it. And so he starts with, he shows up at her house. He's got these little mochas. Hey. And he tries to just tell her, like, hey, trust me.
Right.
I know you have no real reason to other than we had a nice heart-to-heart recently. Mm-hmm. But you work for bad people. And just give me their passcode.
Yes.
And she, reasonably is like, no, thanks.
No.
And so there's that moment. I think it's a cool moment from Rami Malek when he's about to leave or he's thinking about leaving. He's at the door.
Yes.
And he just quietly stands there for a second. And he kind of he makes a decision. All right, I'm about to be a dick.
Yep.
And he does the not acceptable thing in this episode, which is he's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna fail a drug test because I put oxy in your mocha.
Yeah.
And you're gonna lose your kids.
Yeah.
Unless you do what I say. And obviously she was like, what?
Yeah.
And he's trying to rationalize. Well, you work for bad people. But he's trying to rationalize it, but you can tell.
Yeah.
He's not okay exactly with what he's doing, but he's done it.
Yeah.
And he's in for a penny, in for a pound.
And it has some not overriding weight with her because he does reveal that the company that she works for killed her parents or her mother.
Oh, okay, right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Good point.
So I mean,
he deliberately threw that in.
Yeah.
And her point is eventually, she's like, look, you just
and that was the start of her problem.
Right.
That's the way she.
I think you're right. Yeah. Started her spiral. So she says, look, you just reintroduced me to drugs.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just turning it off.
Yep.
Like, you have ruined me.
Yep.
Then she says, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Yes.
And he's like, we saw that, when they were in the bathroom and she had the little oxy bottle with the razor blade when she was like, oh, if I ever want to get back on drugs, I know that I might as well kill myself.
Yes.
And you're like, dude, the dark way to say it would be he didn't care in that moment. But because he tries to save her life,
yes.
I think he just was like,
no.
Whoop.
Yeah, he just didn't think of it.
And so he lets her go into the bathroom and try to kill herself. Realizes his mistake, saves her life. She still hates him, obviously.
Yeah, she obviously still hates him.
But she does go through with the call.
Yes.
And he gets the information he needs.
Yes.
And then he leaves. I don't remember He just like, all right.
Yep.
Hey, and he tries to say, no, it won't get traced back to you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can still go out. Oh, he doesn't say that, but after a couple of days, I could give you.
What was that? She asked him too whether or not them having sex was a part of the plan, whatever, or was it a happy accident? Which you could tell she's not actually thinking it's happy, and he said accident.
Yeah, and she's like, oh,
isn't that sweet?
Yeah,
she's like, isn't
very
that
sarcastic.
Sweet? Yeah.
And it's interesting because she points out the fact that you have ruined my life. You need to take that into account, and it's we think back to just episode 1 of this season when he pushed a guy into committing suicide.
Right. Well, it's one of those moments where the camera moves really to emphasize the fact that it's an important point about him. She's like, how many other people have you done this to?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Right. And in my mind, I was like, oh, yeah, episode 1, dude.
Yes, exactly.
For instance, there's probably other, but that one in particular.
They're like, who can we cast to really make this?
Yeah. Right. Oh, we'll make him a jerk so that the audience doesn't care as much.
But
he's still a dude who was just like a schlub working as a lawyer, and then suddenly he's like, oh, my God, I have a decision to make. All right. So, so.
Interesting, too, how many, according to the show, there are a lot of people out there who are doing very bad things to kids. Oh. The first person he ever talks to is someone who...
sure. Right,
in the first episode, season.
Like pedophile ring.
Yes.
So, how do... This is a pretty... I think even Mr. Robot says there's a line, don't cross this line or something like that. It is he's crossed the line.
Yes.
Like, is this can you pull back from this?
Maybe
you got 7 hours.
Maybe that's why you need
7 hours of TV to pull back.
That's why you need another personality that we're going to see. So.
Yeah. It wasn't me. Yeah. It was someone else the whole time.
Well, no, it's like, okay, I can let that person go now.
Yeah. Woo! Good me.
Darlene will be like, oh, so glad we got this new.
Breathe in the good me.
New one.
I did like this bit when it's the kidnapping bit at the very end. I love kidnaps. No. The Mr. Robot, you see Elliot's walking down the street.
Yes.
And Mr. Robot's doing the narration. He's like, saying something about, oh, it's times like these that test you. Sometimes you just got to ask you, and the narration gets interrupted by the kidnapping.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
I
appreciated that moment. So that's kind of the state of affairs.
Yes, it is.
That's where we leave off.
Yes.
Really, like a serious, somber note to this episode in particular. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
what lengths Elliot's willing to go to.
Yeah, they're gonna hype up the stakes as much as possible before the end of the series. So
yeah. So he's gone in a place that's he's gonna have to try to pull out.
Yeah.
Pull up.
yeah.
So we'll find out next time on Mr. Robot. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.